Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome to another live. All right, welcome, welcome. If this is your first time joining us, welcome, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, listener, subscriber, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Yes, we're here to talk about the Privy Council's ruling in the context of Vybz Kartel and, company. And so we're here to just talk about that and hoping to hear from you. I am joined by Ruren for this conversation. Hello, Ruren. How are you?
Hello, Natasha Lee. I'm not doing too badly. How are you doing?
I'm doing fairly okay. So we're just here, wanting to talk about what has happened, I guess yesterday in the context of the UK and their Privy Council ruling. And so we're going to get into that, but I'm hoping to see, the chat there, the number going up in the live chat. So we're just going to wait a bit to see, how all that unfolds there for us in the chat. But do you have any views so far, Ruran, on, what has happened in the context of the decision?
Well, it's quite interesting to see how fast the Privy Council returned, their view on this matter. Because when I was, hearing some stuff earlier, it seemed like it was going to take months, at least 3 months. So this one came back pretty quickly, I would say. Uh, as it relates to him, as it relates to the fact that this is thrown back into a Jamaican sphere. I'm not sure how a trial or the retrial will be done because the information I think about this case, was all over social media, in a few years back. So, that's where I'm at right now with this one. So I'm going to pass back to you, Natalie.
Awesome, thank you. And that's very interesting to know too in the context of the time and you mentioned in the context of a retrial there and what that could possibly look like. So welcome, welcome if you're just tuning in. Let's hit the like button and the subscription button and tell a friend to tell another friend that we're here. Not usually here this time, but we're here UK time. So we're just hoping that, you can help in terms of getting the word out that we're here. And so some more persons can join us for this conversation. So I have the press summary that I would like to read for you guys from the Privy Council in terms of their decision. But again, just waiting to get our numbers up a little bit here so that we can begin this live conversation. And of course, we're going to open up that phone line for you to give us a call. Would love to hear from you and we'll talk further about what that call, should look like in the context of keeping it real and respectful. So again, welcome, welcome. If you're just tuning in, welcome here to this live conversation in the context of, cartels, conviction being squashed by the UK Privy Council, which is Jamaica's final court of appeal. All right, so welcome, welcome, welcome. And just to let you know, in the context of this case, right? The case also involved Sean Campbell, Kahira Jones, and Andre St. John. All right. So in this one, we have four appellants. So as we know, Adija Vybz Kartel Palmer, Sean Campbell, Kahira Jones, and Andre St. John. And this was versus the King, respondent number two, Jamaica. And so again, it's against the King, the state. So we know that the King is now the head of state. All right, so that's how that is going there. So again, welcome, welcome. If you're just tuning in, welcome. Please remember to hit the like button, the share button, and the subscription button. So again, it's not just, Cartel is because everyone is listening out for Cartel, but just to let you know that Sean Campbell, Tahira Jones, and Andre St. John, they were also appellants in the context of this case, right? And so in that context too, the justices were Lord Reed, Lord Lloyd Jones, Lord Briggs, Lord Burroughs, and Lady Simla. All right, so this looks like about five, yes, five justices that pretty much heard the appeal here. And I definitely have some context to share, and I'm going to try to read it as best as possible without, in and also being cautious in terms of certain words and, that is here, but should be good for hearing. And just so that you can get a sense of what happened in this case. So welcome, welcome. Please hit the like button, the share button, and the subscription button, and let us continue to grow as we get to this, case, their judgment. And so I'm going to start in terms of sharing the press summary. And this is from the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council. All right. So the press summary dated March 14, 2024. And the appellants Sean Campbell, Adija Palmer, Kahira Jones, and Andre St. John versus the King, who is a respondent, and number two, Jamaica. All right. So again, on appeal from the Court of Appeal of Jamaica, Justices Lord Reed, Lord Lloyd Jones, Lord Briggs, Lord Burroughs, and Lady Simla. And just to give you a background to this appeal, on the 13th of March, 2014, what if we look closer at the date in terms of when the ruling came back, wow. Following a 64-day jury trial in the Home Circuit Court in Kingston, Jamaica, the appellants Sean Campbell, Adija Palmer, Tahira Jones, and Andre St. John were convicted of the M of Clive Lizard Williams, the deceased. All right. At trial, the prosecution case was that the deceased and another man, Lamar Chow, had been given two unlicensed firearms belonging to Palmer for safekeeping. On the 16th of August 2011, Campbell summoned Chow and the deceased to Palmer's house after they had failed to comply with Palmer's deadline for returning the weapons. The prosecution alleged that they were met on arrival by Palmer, Jones, and St. John, and that Chow and the deceased were both attacked, after which Chow saw the deceased lying motionless on the ground with Jones bending over him. Chow escaped, but the deceased was never seen again. Police attended Palmer's house on the 22nd of August 2011. They noticed the house smelled of disinfectant. On the 25th of August 2011, they cordoned off the perimeter wall, treating the premises as a crime scene. All right, so when they returned on the 27th, so that was the 25th of August, that they cordoned off the perimeter wall. They returned on the 27th of August 2011, and they found that the entire interior of the house had been destroyed by fire. All right, so then on the 29th of August 2011, police forensics reported a foul odor emanating from the living room. All right, so then after August, now we're into September. On a further visit on September 30th, 2011, it was discovered that the back of the house had been demolished and police dug at the premises but did not find a body. All right, so the police then seized the mobile phones of Palmer and St. John. Text messages, voice notes, and a video from those phones were put in evidence at trial. The prosecution also relied on telecommunications data, which the police had obtained from Digicel, a communication provider. All right. Then the prosecution case was that the mobile phone evidence and telecommunications data taken as a whole with Chow's evidence proved the fact of the killing, the reason for the case, the method of disposal of the deceased body, and the identity of at least one of the case, namely Palmer. The four appellants each denied aiming the deceased. All right. At the trial, the appellants objected to the telecommunications data being admitted as evidence. They argued that the data was inadmissible because it had been obtained in breach of the Interception of Communications Act and the fundamental right to the protection of privacy of communications guaranteed by the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms contained in the Jamaican Constitution. The judge admitted the evidence. He ruled that the data could be relied upon by the prosecution, even if it had been obtained in breach of the Charter or the Interception of Communication Act. Over the course of the 64-day trial, there was a series of incidents involving the jury. The jury was reduced to 11 members after a juror was discharged almost 8 weeks into the trial. On the final day of the trial, it was brought to the judge's attention that a member of the jury, who will be referred to as Juror X, had attempted to bribe other members of the jury. The judge questioned the jury forewoman, who stated that Juror X had offered bribes to each of the other jurors to acquit the appellants. The judge asked counsel for the prosecution and the defense if the trial could continue. It would not have been possible only to discharge Juror X because under the Jury Act, a trial for M cannot continue with fewer than 11 jurors. The judge decided to proceed with his summing up and gave a direction to the jury, reminding them of their function. The jury retired to consider its verdict at 3:42 p.m. The jury returned at 6:08 p.m. and by a majority of 10 to 1 convicted all four appellants of the deceased M. A fifth defendant was unanimously acquitted. Juror X was immediately arrested and was later convicted of attempting to pervert the course of justice. There was no evidence to connect his activities with the appellants. The appellants appealed against their conviction to the Court of Appeal of Jamaica, which dismissed their appeals. The Court of Appeal granted permission to the appeal to the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council on three grounds, which were: 1. The trial judge failed properly to inquire into allegations of juror misconduct. 2. The trial judge departed from standard practice in inviting the jury to retire to consider their verdict so late in the day, putting undue pressure on them to reach a verdict. And finally, the trial judge erred in admitting the telecommunications data because it had been obtained in breach of the Interception of Communications Act and the Charter. All right, let's now move to the judgment. So that was just pretty much to give you an understanding of the facts of the case or the background leading to the appeal to the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, and now to give you, their judgment. Again, this is a summary. All right, so their judgment, the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council has concluded that the appeals should be allowed and the appellant's convictions should be quashed on the ground of juror misconduct. All right, so this is definitely important. So the Privy Council is saying, okay, the conviction should be overturned. Yes, overturned on the ground of juror misconduct. And it did not stop there, and that the case should be remitted to the Court of Appeal, right, in Jamaica to decide whether to order a retrial of the appellants for the M of the deceased. Lord Lloyd Jones gives the unanimous judgment of the board. So that is significant there. So what I get from this, the Privy Council is saying, listen, man, irregularities happened here, and we're just going to start and stop at juror misconduct. You know why? But here what? We'll leave you Jamaicans to sort out in our affairs. So while we can tell you that based on what happened in this trial, there were a lot of irregularities. So the appellant did not get a fair chance in terms of the justice system and what happened. But we have sent it back to owner, so owner decide what no want do, we now make this before a problem. But let's just go down to the reasons for the judgment, which is also important. So the first issue, and this was pretty much the only issue that they pretty much considered because they didn't go to the other aspects. So let's look at the first issue, juror misconduct, all right, which was very significant. All right, so in this context, the board has considerable sympathy with the dilemma faced by the trial judge on the final day of a long and complex trial. Following allegations of bribery, he had either to continue with the 11 remaining jurors or to discharge the jury. Despite this, the board considers that the approach taken by the judge was a material irregularity in the course of the trial, which makes it necessary to quash the convictions. This is for three reasons. All right, so they're saying, listen, because of what happened in the context of the bribery, right? The juror, that allegations there. The judge and continuing with this case was, a big irregularity in the context of, justice here. And so what they're saying, yeah, we sympathize with because it was a long and complex trial and it really means to reach at the end now and just to go hear this, like to go start this back over. So they're saying, but when you think about justice, was the right thing done in that context? What they're saying is no. So the first, in terms of the reasons why they're saying that the convictions should be quashed, first, the direction to the jury on the final day was inadequate to save the situation. The judge simply reminded the jury that they had sworn or affirmed that they would return verdicts in accordance with the evidence they had heard in court. The judge did not refer to the alleged bribery, of which, if the allegations were true, the jurors were already aware. Secondly, the trial continued with the allegedly corrupt juror serving as one of its 11 members. In the board's view, there should have been no question of allowing juror X to continue to serve on the jury. Allowing Juror X to remain on the jury is fatal to the safety of the convictions which followed. It was an infringement of the appellant's fundamental right to a fair hearing under the Jamaican Constitution. Thirdly, the judge should have considered whether the remaining jurors might have become consciously or unconsciously prejudiced for or against one or more of the appellants as a result of jurors X's behavior. For example, there was a danger that the attempted bribe could have made the other jurors overcompensate, consciously or unconsciously, if they assumed that the offer must have come from one of the appellants and that therefore they must be guilty. The judge took no account of this risk. And this is definitely an important point because what the Privy Council is saying here, the mere fact that the juror is coming, juror X is coming now to bribe you to say, all right, we're going to give you X amount if you can return a not guilty verdict. What the court is, the Privy Council is saying is that by virtue of that, you know, the jury might be thinking, oh, this a come from the appellants, man. So because of you are send this person and now if you come tell if you do this, oh no, must guilty. So what the Privy Council is saying, the judge took no account of this risk in the context of consideration here. So those are the three grounds in terms of why they said that the convictions, should be quashed. So in the context of the other aspects here, no, let us continue this part. The board is mindful of the very serious consequences which may flow from having to discharge a jury shortly before the end of a long and complex criminal trial. It is also very conscious of the danger of deliberate attempts to derail criminal trials by engineering situations in which it is necessary to discharge the jury. In England and Wales, there is legislation which allows a judge in certain situations to discharge a jury because of jury tampering and to continue the trial by judge alone. There is no such legislation in Jamaica. It follows that there will be occasions where, as in this case, a court will have no alternative but to discharge a jury and end the trial to protect the integrity of the system of trial by jury. And then in the context of issue number 2 and 3, timing of jury retirement and evidence obtained in breach of charter, in view of its conclusion on the issue of juror misconduct, the board holds that it is not necessary to express a concluded view on these grounds of appeal. And so what they're pretty much saying is that the mere fact that we already quashed the conviction, we don't need to go to the other, issues in terms of, timing because issue number one was so strong and it was, a big issue in the context of this case. It was enough to overturn, based on their decision, to overturn that conviction. And so, in essence, we don't need to waste time to look at issue number 2 and 3 because, the conviction is already overturned by virtue of looking at juror misconduct, which is issue number 1. So, Rurian, I'm coming over to you. And guys, you can comment in the chat. Keep hitting the like button, the share button, and the subscription button. Oh, Carlos, you're here. Welcome, welcome. I see you there in the chat. Just getting to take a peek in the chat there. Rurian, are you still here and hearing me? All right, not hearing from Rurian. So I will definitely circle back with Rurian there, just not hearing from Rurian right now. So the big thing is the Privy Council, the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council is saying, listen, man, Jamaica, this is definitely wrong. juror misconduct quite evident here. We sympathize with you, Judge, that yes, it was a long trial, a very complex one, but nonetheless, you needed to take into account that this had happened, and the mere fact that Juror X was also, I guess, charged. Was that the word that they use, or convicted in the context of perverting? Let me just go back here to find it exactly, what they said about Juror X. Yes, was immediately arrested and was later convicted, right, of attempting to pervert the course of justice. So what I'm getting here is that, it is important, definitely important, this part. And that was enough for the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council to say, listen, we are overturning, right? The convictions. We are quashed them. All right. And so that's what happened. But they did not say, okay, let's let them go totally free. They're saying, listen, Jamaica, this is your business. So we're just going to tell you that yes, there were irregularities, but we're sending it back to you for you to decide if you want to do a retrial. All right. So if they want to reorder a retrial, you, Jamaica, you must decide, how that goes for you in the context of ordering a retrial. You know, I was checking to see, if the DPP gave an update, because a part of this too will be resting on the DPP to determine if she wants to continue in the context of this. So we'll definitely await to hear, what is happening in that context. All right. And again, it was 5 judges: Lord Reed, Lord Lloyd Jones, Lord Briggs, Lord Burroughs, and Lady Simler. And again, in terms of overturning the convictions, they rested their decision largely on the jury misconduct. All right. And in that context, they say, these issues, or the issues surrounding, I guess this misconduct, created material irregularities. All right. And again, that for sure, is a victory somewhat for, Cartel and the other appellants in the case, for sure. So we're definitely, Ren, are you still here? So we want to definitely see what Jamaica will do, if they will set them free, or if they're going to say, let's go for the retrial. And that's definitely something that I am going to pay keen attention to in this context of, what will happen. All right, because for sure, it's definitely important. And in the context of justice, everyone wants to ensure that they have a system that is fair, and anything outside of that, I guess, is problematic, right? And so I have heard a lot of arguments too in the context of, the bribery and all that. And so again, for us, we work with what can be substantiated in terms of what we have that can support. And right now, what we are utilizing is the Privy Council's media summary. That's what I shared with you just now. That's what I read from. And just to update you too, that the lawyers for Sean Storm, and I guess Carter's lawyers too, they are thinking of seeking a bail application. They're expected to seek a bail application, and in the context of waiting to see what the Court of Appeal Jamaica will do. So just to go to this article here from the Gleaner, this morning the UK based Privy Council upheld their appeal against their convictions and ordered that the Court of Appeal should consider the matter. All right, let me just scroll down because we have that. And Bert Samuel said he will be seeking to get instructions from his client on the next step, while noting that his role was to handle the Privy Council appeal and that his work is done. Samuel said the likely move is that bail would now be sought for Campbell. And this is what he said. He now has the right to apply for bail because he's now awaiting the decision of the court whether he should move to trial or not. So, no doubt, when they lawyer up, we will be going knocking on the door because the first move is to try and obtain bail pending the hearing, whether there should be a retrial or not. So that's what, Samuel said. And I think I read this already from the summary there from the Judicial Committee. And we know that Samuels, Isaac Buchanan, and Bianca Samuels are part of the local team of defense appeals attorneys for Campbell there. So just to fill you in on that one there. Just to let you know that, that's what is happening or what has happened in the context of, the case. So what are your views? Not sure how many persons are here, so let me just check in and perhaps we'll be here, later on in the day when I know more persons will perhaps be tuned in just to give you, just to hear from you and to get a better sense of, what is happening. All right, welcome, welcome. If you're just tuning in, welcome. All right, so I just shared the press summary from the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council in the context of the overturning, the decision, you know, for the conviction of Cartel and his fellow appellants in the case. And so in this context, the Privy Council, they sent the case back to Jamaica for them to decide whether they allow them to move free or they order a retrial in this one. And so I also shared from that summary the three reasons the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council is saying, this is not right based on juror misconduct. And so, in essence, we're now waiting to hear from Jamaica in the context of how they will proceed. All right. So, if you're just joining us, welcome. And I am going to wrap up this one. In a little bit. I'm not hearing from Ruren, so perhaps I've lost him there. But, just to let you know that it's not all freedom yet for Cartel and company, but a partial victory somewhat for them. And so we're awaiting to see if Jamaica will decide to order a retrial or they will just let them be free on their merry way. So if you're in the chat, comment and let me know if you'd like to call in at this time. If not, I'm just going to wrap this one up and, we'll come again. So welcome, welcome, guys. All right, so I'm just waiting here. All right, not seeing any new comments in the chat. All right, thanks for joining and thanks for tuning in. We'll be back later on to just provide you with some additional updates once they're available and just to perhaps, quickly go over this, in terms of what has happened and hopefully we'll have more persons here to share. Thank you so much for tuning in. Blessings and love, everyone. And remember to exercise self-care. Take care of yourself as best as you can. All right. Bye for now and see you in the next live.